This week's all-new episode of Young Justice was called Early Warning, and it was a doozy of an episode delivered on my birthday of all day, so you know what, let's not waste any more time, let's get right to it. Picking up from where the last episode left off, Beast Boy's new public-facing superhero team, the Outsiders, is taking the world by storm. They're changing people's hearts and minds all over the world, and their social media blitz, helped out a ton by people like Courtney Whitmore, who, for your information, was Stargirl in the comics, has allowed the heroes to finally regain control of the narrative from folks like Lex Luthor and the Light, who have been trying to weaponize it against them. Granted, it's not all hunky-dory at the Outsiders' new base of operations. Dr. Jace has some very bad news for Violet. You know how she keeps being able to cheat death over and over again like Kenny from South Park thanks to her strange alien powers that even the great geniuses of the Justice League are unable to fully understand just yet? Well, as it turns out, using that kind of power in what is essentially the repurposed body of a dead girl is killing Violet all over again, or at the very least that's what the doctor wants her to think. She has been acting super shady lately, and whether or not Jace can be trusted is still up in the air. More on this in a bit though. Now the Outsiders' newest mission sees them off to Cuba, where a member of the Light and maybe one of the series' most recurring villains, Clarion the Witch Boy, is using his chaos magic to awaken the latent meta genes in more trafficked kids, essentially turning them into magical slaves. Complete with a brand very similar to the one he used in his appearance in Batman the Animated Series. I like that Young Justice is actually referencing the other shows in the DC canon now. Technically no superhero is allowed in Cuba either, which means that when the team gets there, they not only have to fight Clarion and his nightmarish flesh monster made out of people, but also the Cuban military, who don't take kindly to them super folks in these parts. The team is also understaffed, as Impulse and a few others are attending a funeral for Jay Garrick's wife, who we actually saw sick in the previous episode, and it looks like she didn't get any better. On the animation and action side of things, it actually looked like this episode had some considerable funds pumped into it. Lots of magical effects from Clarion, Beast Boy changes his shape a ton, and the flesh monster is legit one of the most unnerving things I've seen in Young Justice in a very long time. The good guys save the day, and Taos ends up with more kids to help, namely a female water breather whose alias is never actually revealed, but who is clearly supposed to be Dolphin, another Aquaman supporting character. I hope this means we're going to be getting some more Atlantis-themed stories in the future. Feels like forever since we've been under the sea. El Dorado also decides that he wants to join the Outsiders team after seeing what viral sensations they've become, saying that it would be a great way to inspire the kids at the center to do better, but really he only seems to want to inspire Windfall, possibly to like him more, which if you ask me is probably a bad reason to risk your neck on dangerous super missions. Now at the other end of the episode, we actually get to spend some time with Terra. She's being trained by Artemis, who is very easily able to suss out the fact that this girl might not be all who she says she is, having already seen to have some combat training under her belt. Granted, it's played off as something she may have gotten during her time in the metahuman fight clubs, and not from her handler Deathstroke, as we the audience know. I like this scene a lot because Artemis ends up actually relating a lot to Terra and figures that they probably have very similar trauma in their lives. Ooh, if only she knew, right? Sportsmaster was a bad guy and a worse dad, but from what we know, he wasn't also canonically a huge sleaze like Deathstroke is. And with that, we come to the 3 or 4 minutes I'm sure everyone is chomping at the bit to hear me talk about. The scene that had it been on regular television and not an app, I'm sure it would have launched a billion think pieces, but now will only probably garner way more views than this video when someone ultimately uploads it later to YouTube. Now, as we said before, Violet is overcome with the knowledge that she might die soon, and because of that decides she might as well live life to the fullest. Better burn out than fade away, as the Kurgan once famously said, and assisting her in this endeavor is returning Harper Row, who proves to be quite the juvenile delinquent in this universe, drinking and shooting antique cans with a gun. This was surprising to me as a comic book reader because Harper there was pretty damn chill and upstanding as Bluebird, but then again, this is a much younger version with a lot of places to go and a lot of room still to grow. Violet decides, hey, you know what, I want some of that booze, which even Harper is quick to clue in on. Hey, isn't that a massive no-no for Muslims? And indeed, it sure is, but Violet is struggling with her humanity right now. She'll struggle with her faith later. Still, just the fact that this show actually managed to show an image of an outwardly facing Muslim woman in a hijab drinking is pretty huge. I'm reminded of the firestorm that G. Willow Wilson found herself in ever so briefly briefly when she had Miss Marvel actually kiss a boy over in Marvel Comics. Nothing really came of that, and I don't think anything will come of that here either. But wait, there's more, because Harper Row decides to initiate a little sapphic experimentation, and I mean, hey, teenagers do love to experiment, and drunken teenagers especially love to. You certainly can't say they're not using the fact that this show is on an app to really boundary push some exploration of superhero sexuality that they could not get away with on regular television, especially for an animated show. The girls end up getting busted by a cop who takes Violet back to Megan, who very much in character isn't mad at all, just concerned not only about Violet but about Harper too, whose father, much like in the comics, is a grade A loser. No mention of her brother Cullen though, which I found to be kind of interesting. For those who don't know, Cullen was actually an out gay man in the comics, and I wonder if for the show they've opted to fuse brother and sister into one character. And so that was Early Warning, and I gotta say, unlike the last two shows, this episode offered a fair amount to chew on. Some nice character moments and the promise of new things to come. Is Jace lying to Violet? Who is her mysterious mentor she talked about? The Outsiders are more popular than the League now. Does that mean the Light will start going after them now? I do start to wish, after seeing so many villains from the first few seasons return here, that we could get some new flavor of the weak type bad guys. Not saying Clarion is bad or anything, he was funny and threatening enough when he needed to be, but I just felt like this shtick has been done a lot of times before. Overall, I thought this was a much improved, much more interesting, more thought-provoking episode. And so that'll just about do it for me, everyone. This has been Cape Joel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next episode.